I hate Twilight Princess. I think it's one of the worst 3D Zelda games out there, and I did not have a fun time playing through it. I'm not going to get into the schematics on why I hate it though. I already wrote a review on that, which I have a link to in the description. However, being a retard that dislikes a critically acclaimed game and saying that you do out loud, you get a lot of angry people yelling at you saying that you're wrong. So that's what I'm going to address today. I'm going to see if I can defend my negative view on this game from people who disagree with me saying that this game is one of the best Zelda games out there. Which it's not. Let's be honest here. Majora's Mask took that crown. Anyways, first comment.
Oh, sorry to interrupt your beach party, everyone. Just thought I'd stop by with my car.
I'm addressing all the comments I got from my YouTube Shorts video I put out and from my Gab post. And if you don't know what Gab is, it's just a small right-wing social media platform that I post my reviews and other stuff on. Also, we're starting with the smallest comments first, okay? Let's go.
Four wheels, one key, I must be truly blessed. Life is a school and I'm passing the test.
The anime wolf chick says, best game you get to play as a good boy trademark. The crap! Anyway, yes, I guess this game is good if you have a wolf fetish. I didn't mention that in my review. You should also check out Sonic Unleashed and Okami, I guess, if you're into that stuff. Next comment.
Two working headlights, four functional seats, and get a load of these pedals that I can push with my feet.
Gaming Station says it's one of the best Zelda game I fins because of the Ost. Yeah, I admit it. I kind of forgot to mention the soundtrack in my review. And my thoughts on it? It's mid. Pretty mid. For a game, it's got a good soundtrack, but not so much for a Zelda title. This is coming from a guy who played both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, so I know a great Zelda soundtrack when I hear one. Anyway, you do got a point. At the very least, this game's soundtrack is good, but that in turn does not make the entire game good. And if you disagree with me, I direct you to a game called Earthworm Jim 3D. That should settle things. Next comment.
There's an AM radio that kicks you right in the ass.
Hoo boy, that's a big comment. I'm gonna have to address this comment piece by piece because there is no way I'm addressing the entire thing in one go. Okay, first part.
So turn down the treble, baby, and crank up the bass.
For me personally, Twilight Princess is what I want out of a Zelda game. Whole bunch of great dungeons and a more cinematic story / cinematic general feel. Other Zelda games were either too light in tone or too cartoony to scratch this specific itch. And while Ocarina of Time is the better story, it's presented like an N64 game which doesn't give it the epic quality that Twilight Princess has. Yes, I guess you could say Twilight Princess is technically more epic than Ocarina of Time, but I don't think that's very fair. Ocarina of Time is one of the most epic titles on the N64, due to how it pushed the console really far in scale. The areas could be quite big, and the frame rate would still be at a reasonable level without any constant dips, something Banjo-Tooie failed to do. And that's even without the N64's expansion pack! So, I guess in terms of what consoles these games were made on, they're both equally epic in their size and capacity. But I guess you could still say Twilight Princess is more epic than Ocarina of Time just because it's bigger. The same logic applies to Breath of the Wild being more epic than Twilight Princess though. Next part. Yeah, the exploration in Twilight Princess is not the best, but let's be real. Exploration in 3D Zeldas was not very good before Breath of the Wild. Skyward Sword had the empty sky, Majora's Mask just had a small hub world, Ocarina of Time had just an empty field, and Wind Waker had an expansive ocean that was incredibly unfun to traverse. Twilight Princess's overworld designed like a PS2 game, and I'm okay with that. So, there's not much I can say here because I've personally never played a PS2 game. I know, get the shocked expressions out now. But one thing I can say is just because other Zelda titles' overworlds weren't very good, doesn't mean that Twilight Princess's overworld being not very good is justified. That's just common sense. Also, I personally like Majora's Mask's hub world around Clocktown. It was fine. Next part.
I own a car, woman.
The dungeons, on the other hand, are awesome. They're my favorite set of dungeons in any Zelda game, and there are a whole bunch of them. I don't agree that any of them are stupid. I thought each of them had a central gimmick that they utilize well, even if the item doesn't get any use outside of that dungeon. Well, to each their own, I guess. Like, I personally found Snow Peak Ruins and Lake Bed Temple to be pretty bad. Everything else was mid. I don't think there was a single temple that really stood out to me. They all felt like they were too big in scale with no real reason to be. Also, there were too many items in the game. Like, there's no reason to have both the slingshot and the bow and arrow. They're basically the same thing. Also, why are there 3 types of bombs? I don't need regular bombs and then water bombs. Just let me upgrade the base bomb so it can work underwater. Decisions like this would have made the item wheel so less cluttered. And also, a lot more of these items should have been used in more side quests and future temples in the game. But now that I think about it, having to constantly scroll through the item wheel to get ahead in a temple would have been tedious. So yeah, this is one Zelda game that should have had a lot less items. But Zelda fans won't agree to that because as soon as they're given something new, they'll justify having it. Like having a bomb that works underwater and a regular one that doesn't. Who thought of this? Seriously. Next part, please. I never saw this game as trying to be dark and edgy, just trying to take a slightly more mature tone than the usual Zelda fare. It's no Shadow the Hedgehog if that's what its reputation suggests. I personally love the atmosphere, especially the Twilight realm. I like the fact that it's not supposed to be a generic evil world, just trippy and weird. Look, I'm personally mixed about the style of this game. If it's trying to be edgy, it flops. And if it's trying to be weird, it kind of works, not really. The end product is a style that definitely feels unique that's neither really cool or really weird. Just a strange mix of both. Something I will diss though is the advertising of this game due to how the box art portrays a super macho cool Giga Chad Link when what you actually get is a clueless beta Link. Okay, final part. The thing is, I agree with a lot of the criticism you have, but at the same time, this game is huge and does a whole bunch of things right. But one criticism that I think could have been easily fixed for you is if you played the GameCube or Wii U version instead. If you don't like motion controls and you know the game has a version without those controls, I don't see why you would force yourself to play the motion control one instead. Alright, I did respond to this guy and said that the reason why I played the Wii version is that it's around $20, and every other version of this game is over $100. So yes, I really want to play the GameCube or Wii U version, but not if I have to pay around 5 times the price I got for the Wii version. That's retarded. So Dave, what's the next comment look like? Are you sure you're ready for it? Of course I am. I mean, how bad can it possibly be? Whoa, mama! That's big. Like, really big. Yeah, and we're now officially 60 lines into this video. Welp, ain't gonna get any shorter. Whew, here we go. Part 1. Fun side quest, but most of them give rupees. I instruct you to Wind Waker or the Oracle games. They run the exact same pattern. You can't down the game for following a standard set by others before it. I've played Wind Waker before, so I can confirm this is true for that game. Not the Oracle games, though. Never played them before, never really wanted to play them. Would rather play Conker's Bad Fur Day. But I digress. Just as I said before, just because the previous games in a series do a bad thing, that this game still does, doesn't then make it not a bad thing. If you even remotely understand what I'm saying here. Next part.
Look out, it's beige, the coolest kind of brown.
Wolf Link sucks. Clearly you want him to be some kind of furry hybrid, yeah? Wolf Link was a fine gimmick. I'm real glad they didn't make him into a furry. Every Zelda game has a gimmick of some sort. Wolf Link was just that game's gimmick. Yes, even Ocarina of Time had a gimmick. Its gimmick was open world, which was brand new at the time. As far as the gimmick goes, I choose to treat it as a mode of transportation since it was fast. If you think Wolf Link sucks as a gimmick, you must have really loved changing the wind direction every 3 seconds in Wind Waker or having to re-equip the gauntlet in the Oracle games. At least Wolf Link as a gimmick was very easy to do. Seriously, dude, you must really hate Wind Waker and the Oracle games, which is totally understandable. Wind Waker sucks hard, but that's a topic for another video. Also, I never said I wanted Wolf Link to be a furry hybrid. I just wanted him to be good. And yes, he can work for transportation purposes when you really need him, but he really serves no major purposes in the game despite being a gimmick, and a really bad and pointless one at that. Quick side note though, you guys ever notice that Wolf Link shows more proper emotion than regular Link? I find that quite ironic to be honest. Oh, and it leads me directly to the next part.
Check out these windows, they're totally clear.
Real Link sucks at showing emotion. What era do you think this is in? Originally, this was GameCube, but also at the very start of the Wii. The biggest emotion characters had then was Winky Face. Heck, go look at Wind Waker. Half the time, Link is literally just looking around because they don't have a facial expression for him. Besides that, he's supposed to be Link, not Xenoblades. Link is an everyman, meant for the player to project himself onto. He's not a character in the way you want him to be. He's your avatar. Personally, I prefer Link not having any emotions. I don't want to play as a weak beta male. You can totally have the character you play as show emotion without him being a weak beta male. Don't believe me? One word then. Kratos. That also covers the issue of this game releasing in 2006. This is in the N64 era the game came out in. It was the Xbox 360 and late PS2, early PS3 era. A ton of games that came out of this era had loads of characters displaying proper emotion on their faces. This isn't a technology wasn't advanced enough issue. This was probably a I don't want Link to look too serious so he doesn't scare off the kiddies issue. Because this game was made for toddlers. Next part.
So you can watch in amazement as stuff gets more near.
Controls feel off. Name any game you enjoyed Wii controls for. I don't think you have one. I think you probably just hate the console control scheme more than the game. I enjoyed having dead-on accuracy with the bow, and the nunchuck swinging felt pretty natural. Much better than trying to spin a damn control stick around to do a great spin. Probably the first game I ever used that fast spin on because it was actually usable. Honestly, they shouldn't have introduced the great spin in Ocarina of Time. That was the worst control setup for a quick move ever. It wasn't quick, you had to input more, and it often failed. And Twilight Princess move never failed for me. I also like how you had full control over Link's swing with the Wiimote instead of having to count attacks like you do in the other Zeldas. It had innovative and responsive controls, unlike Wind Waker where you just sat in front of an enemy waiting for a reaction attack to automatically win. Again, to each their own, I personally hated having to constantly shake the Wiimote to attack. It was tiring. It was so tiring that I actually turned off aiming with the Wiimote for shooting arrows and such so my arm could live another day. Also, I can list two big games I enjoyed the Wii motion controls for, Wii Sports and Super Mario Galaxy 2, the latter being my second favorite game of all time. Okay, next part.
Do you believe in miracles?
Hyrule Field, from what I recall, was about the same size, maybe a little larger than Ocarina of Time. The scale just feels different, not an issue. Most of the field is used at some point as an arena for very specific fights. Something Ocarina of Time did not do. Ocarina of Time is just obscenely large for no reason, hashtag walking simulator. Yes, Ocarina of Time's field was really big for no reason, I agree to that. Still, Twilight Princess's field was still a pain to traverse when you needed to. But I guess it's not as bad as Ocarina of Time since there is more fast travel and you only need to trek across it a few times. Also, I never used all of Hyrule's field in Twilight Princess, but maybe it is all usable. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Next part.
We're shooting off like a star.
Midna, yeah, I didn't care for Midna, but most of the things in this game are figure-outable. I never had to wimp out and watch a walkthrough. I honestly feel like people are just becoming bad gamers these days, relying too much on walkthroughs, losing their critical thinking and puzzle-solving abilities. Midna was a negative to this game. Yeah, I believe most modern gamers are wimps who are too dumb to figure out things themselves without a walkthrough. Also, I made a whole video on Midna, so check it out if you want to know my opinion on her. Next part.
Who needs a license, mama? Oh, when you got a car.
Controls to each their own. Like I said, controls were good to me. You just don't seem to like Wiimotes. Maybe change your batteries. Oh yeah, like changing my batteries will suddenly make the game 10 times better. Shut up. Graphics, yeah, it's Twilight Realm world. It's supposed to be a dark and gritty design. That's how you make a harsh world, by sticking to one coloring schematic. It's the opposite of what they did with Breath of the Wild. They used lush coloring for that. Quite literally the polar opposite. You'll never find any contrast in that game. It's soft coloring for soft men. Even Wind Waker with its cel shading had better design than Breath of the Wild. The story of Twilight Princess is that you live in a defeated world. Obviously it's going to be gritty, so the graphics reflect that. You can classify it as dark, but being dark doesn't have to be satanic. Maybe you've forgotten, but the old detective novels have had tons of darkness, but also quite a few bright and weird characters to them. Twilight Princess is in the exact same style. It's the style of the genre. Wait, didn't I say the graphics were really good in this game? I did, didn't I? Also, for this game being dark, I mean how it was advertised to be moody and have a darker tone, almost like Majora's Mask. Also, speaking of Majora's Mask, that game nails having both a dark overworld tone and weird but lovable characters. Anyway, back to how it was advertised, I think Nintendo was lying to everyone with the cover art and promos of this game. Instead of showing this, they really should have showed us this. I think that would have been more honest. Okay, last part.
Listen good. I own a car, you turkeys.
Twilight Princess was basically dark Ocarina of Time in my opinion. It had way better controls though. I mostly blame the Wiimote for that. Don't know why people have such trouble with that controller. Maybe they're just at a bad distance or didn't set up the e-reader right or have bad batteries or something. It's not an e-reader, you uncultured twit. It's a sensor bar. The e-reader was that Game Boy Advanced accessory. You know, the one that lets you scan the cards. Also, stop thinking the reason why other people don't like the games you like is because their controllers have bad batteries. That's bullcrap. Anyway, I'm done. This script is around 100 lines long, and I now realize it's going to be my longest video to date. So, hoo boy, do I have my work cut out for me here. Also, before I go, there's this one YouTuber I'd like to mention who goes much more in depth of the boss battles in this game, which weren't really a highlight if you ask me. TD is his name and controversial opinions is his game. I'll link a playlist of his Twilight Princess videos in the description. I really like his content, so you should check him out if you really enjoy listening to Twilight Princess slander. Anyways, next video is not going to be this long and is on retarded motivational quotes. Peace!